The arena of sovereigns was a spectacle of cruelty. It sat at the heart of the Zarkan Empire, a coliseum of polished obsidian, humming with ancient tech and bloodlust. Thousands of species gathered under a dome of shimmering energy, their attention locked on the combat pit below, a battleground for the damned. Here, prisoners of war, criminals, and the unlucky were fed to the strongest, all for entertainment. Screams weren't horrors here, they were applause. Today, they waited for another show, an easy kill. The crowd buzzed with excitement when Korgith entered, towering and reptilian, plated with dark green armor grown straight from his skin. He was undefeated. His jaws clicked with anticipation. He had killed a dozen foes in this very pit, many before they could land a single blow. He didn't see his opponents as threats, only as opportunities for more glory. This time, it would be no different, especially not when the next challenger stumbled into the arena barely able to stand. The human was a wreck, dressed in shredded fatigues. Blood caked his left side. One eye was swollen shut, and his gait was uneven, dragging one foot behind the other. The crowd laughed. So did Korgith. Loud and deep, the kind of laugh that didn't come from amusement, but certainty. He raised his arms and let the crowd feed his ego. "This is what the Terrans send now," he roared. A corpse dressed as a man. The human didn't respond. He stood still, swaying slightly, eyes half closed. He looked like he might collapse from a stiff breeze. But in those tired eyes was something quiet. Not fear, not desperation. Something else. Something patient. Korgith bounced on his feet, warming up his limbs in mockery. He jabbed the air, grinning. "Let's make it quick, Terran. I don't want her blood on my boots too long." The match was announced. No weapons, no armor, just fists and instincts. The human didn't move when the chime rang. Korgith advanced with lazy confidence, rolling his neck and flashing teeth. "You should have died with your squad," he muttered. At least they had the dignity to scream. A flicker. The human's fingers clenched. Korgith approached until they were a few paces apart. He bent slightly to look into the human's face. "I said," but the human's eyes had sharpened. Alert, focused, awake. And still he said nothing. The silence unnerved the audience. A ripple of confusion passed through the arena stands. Korgith stepped back and raised a hand toward the sky, as if to say, "What is this?" Then he laughed again, shorter this time, almost uncertain. "I'll give you a chance, Terran. Take the first swing. Hit me. Show them your pride." The human didn't swing. He simply adjusted his footing. A few in the crowd leaned forward. Something about the stance. It wasn't random. It was practiced, balanced. Korgith dropped the pretense. He lunged forward with a sharp jab, meant to send the human flying. The human shifted. Not fast, right? His shoulder rolled, letting the strike slide past, and he moved with surgical economy, avoiding more damage. It wasn't flashy. It was efficient. Korgith frowned. The crowd went quiet for the first time. Another jab, faster this time. The human ducked. His breathing was calm, controlled. Korgith's third punch grazed the human's side, but didn't connect cleanly. Then, unexpectedly, the human took a step forward, not back. Closed the distance. A blur of motion. His elbow slammed into the alien's ribs. Korgith stepped back, blinking. That had hurt. No one laughed now. The human didn't press. He waited, breathing evenly. Korgith growled and struck again. This time a wide arc aimed at crushing the man's temple. The human dropped under it, pivoted, and delivered a precise jab to Korgith's kidney node. Another step, another strike, kneecap, shoulder joint. His movements were pure instinct honed by repetition, the kind of muscle memory born from desperation and survival. He wasn't fighting for the crowd. He was fighting like someone who had nothing left to lose. Korgith stumbled. The audience gasped. And for the first time in his career, the arena's champion felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The human straightened slowly, bloodied, bruised, but still standing, and watching, always watching. He wasn't born for war, but war had made him. Before the arena, before the blood-soaked sand, there was the siege of Myr 7. A mining colony turned battlefield when the Zarkan Empire swept through human space like wildfire. He had been stationed there as a corporal, part of a planetary defense unit equipped with outdated gear and dwindling supplies. The enemy came in waves, efficient, overwhelming, technologically superior. Entire squads disappeared overnight. The command structure collapsed. Yet he fought. The memories didn't come as flashes. They lived in his bones. 32 hours without rest, holding the East Trench against energy barrage and plasma drones. Watching his friends vanish into clouds of red mist. Crawling through wreckage to plant demolition charges in the path of armored crawlers. Every moment was survival by inches. He'd been wounded 3 times before the medics stopped trying to fix him. The last injury, a serrated shard through his thigh, should have ended him. But he dragged himself back to the line. They had orders to fall back. He disobeyed, not out of disloyalty, out of instinct. Someone had to cover the evacuation. He did, alone, with a ruined leg, a jammed rifle, and a sidearm that overheated after 6 shots. Still, he delayed the advance long enough for the last shuttle to lift off. The price? Capture. The Zarkan soldiers didn't kill him. They studied him, dissected the footage. A human soldier with no command, no reinforcements, no hope, fighting like every second mattered. It confused them. They had no words for stubbornness that bordered on suicidal. They saw broken bones and thought weakness. They saw blood loss and assumed defeat. What they never understood was that humans could endure in ways logic couldn't measure. When they brought him to the gladiator cells, he couldn't walk, but he didn't crawl either. He leaned on the walls and moved forward. Every step was pain. He welcomed it. Pain meant he wasn't done. The guards laughed, calling him meat for the pit. The medic drones offered rudimentary treatment, enough to keep him upright. He refused sedation. He needed his mind clear. The other prisoners kept their distance. Some were terrified. Others pitied him. They had heard what happened to humans in the arena. Not many survived the first match. None made it past the second. He didn't talk much. He didn't sleep much either. He trained, slowly, methodically, stretching torn muscles, pushing broken joints into motion again. His body was wreckage, but his will wasn't. He studied the fights, watched Korgith's previous victories on the arena feeds. He memorized every movement, every pattern. The alien was strong, fast, and predictable. He liked to gloat. He liked to draw things out. That was the key. Arrogance was always a gap. In the silence of his cell, he counted heartbeats. He replayed the final hour on Mur, 7 again and again, not to relive it, but to sharpen himself. Every mistake, every success, etched into the rhythm of his thoughts. When the summons came, he didn't flinch. He didn't ask questions. He stood and walked. Not because he was ready, because it didn't matter. He'd already faced death. It wasn't intimidating anymore. They brought him into the preparation chamber, stripped him of everything but tattered clothing. A bot tried to clean the dry blood from his skin. He waved it off. He needed the pain. The ache kept his mind sharp. Every limp, every throb reminded him of why he was still alive. The Zarkan announcer declared the match like it was sport. The crowd cheered, hungry for humiliation. They saw him as a joke. They always had. But that was the difference. They laughed to mock. Humans laughed to survive. They expected fear. They expected despair. What they never expected was stillness. Before the gates opened, he closed his eyes and remembered a moment on Earth. His sister's voice, the smell of rain, the silence before battle. He didn't need revenge. He needed 1 minute, just 60 seconds to show the truth. That humans don't break the way others do. They burn. They rise. They endure. And when pushed too far, they fight like no one else in the galaxy. The first strike landed hard enough to crack ribs. Korgith roared, driving his fist into the human's chest like a sledgehammer. The human stumbled, breath caught, pain radiating through his body. But he didn't fall. He didn't retreat. He exhaled once, eyes locked on Korgith's stance, not his face. He had taken worse. He'd survived worse. This was pain, but not new. Korgith pressed forward, swinging again. Another hit connected, shoulder, then thigh. The human absorbed them, each blow calculated aloud. He was bleeding, shaking, but not reacting, not giving the crowd what they wanted. No scream, no plea, Only silence and breathing. That silence unsettled Korgith. He was used to begging. He was used to fear. He stepped back, sneering. Still standing, Terran? Impressive. Useless, but impressive. He jabbed again. This time, the human moved, not back, but sideways, letting the punch slide past. A shift in balance. A pivot. And then a response. The elbow strike was fast, close range, and deliberate. It connected under Korgith's chin, snapping his head back slightly. Not enough to knock him down. Enough to hurt. Enough to remind him this wasn't over. Korgith grinned, flashing sharp teeth. But the grin faltered as the human moved again, this time faster, ducking a wild punch and driving a knee into his side. 1, 2, 3 strikes, clean, surgical, unflinching. No wasted motion. Korgith swung wide out of instinct, not control. His form started to unravel. He roared, charging forward. But the human sidestepped and slammed his fist into the back of the alien's knee. Korgith stumbled. His leg buckled. Confusion flickered across his face. Then rage. He launched a full-bodied slam, trying to crush the smaller man with raw weight. The human dropped low and rolled out of range. As Korgith turned, the human was already up, already moving. He wasn't fighting harder. He was fighting smarter. Another strike. Right to a nerve joint near Korgith's collarbone. The alien snarled and grabbed for him, but the human ducked again, delivering a sharp palm strike to his solar plexus. Korgith gasped. The air left his lungs. He backed up, truly retreating now. The arena had grown quiet. No cheers, only the sound of fists and breath and movement. Korgith shook his head. "You're nothing," he spat, but the words lacked conviction. "You're just," the sentence died. The human was already inside his guard, delivering 2 precise punches to the jaw, then retreating before Korgith could react. He was bleeding from the mouth now, eyes darting, breath erratic. He was panicking, and he knew it. The champion of the arena, mocked across systems as unbeatable, was losing to a half-dead human. Not in power, not in strength, but in every way that mattered. Korgith bellowed, the sound raw and desperate. He lunged, reckless, telegraphing every movement. The human ducked under, swept his foot behind Korgith's ankle, and sent the alien crashing to the ground. The impact shook the arena. Korgith tried to rise. The human stood over him, one eye swollen shut, lip torn, ribs likely broken, but standing, breathing, watching. Korgith reached for his leg. The human stepped back, letting him flail. Not out of mercy. He wanted him to understand. This wasn't a fluke. This was control. Every moment of pain, every insult, every doubt, it all led to this. Korgith crawled, trying to rise again. His breath was wheezing now. The fight had left him. His body wanted to give in. His mind just hadn't accepted it yet. The human crouched beside him and finally spoke. "You should have finished me when you had the chance." The words were low, steady, and final. Korgith froze. That voice didn't carry rage. It carried certainty, the kind that breaks pride, the kind that changes everything. Because for the first time in his life, the champion understood he wasn't facing prey. He was facing a survivor. Korgith didn't get up. He tried once, muscles trembling, breath rattling in his throat, but his limbs no longer answered with the confidence they once held. He stared up at the human, eyes wide with something he had never felt in the arena: fear. Not of pain, of understanding. That he had been wrong. That everything he believed about humans was wrong. The human didn't celebrate. No roaring. No arms raised. He stood there, barely alive, face battered, blood running down his side, and looked at the audience. Thousands of eyes locked on him, silent now, the bloodthirst drained from their stares. This wasn't victory. It was revelation. They had called humans fragile, said they broke easy, said they had no place in the galactic order, that they were primitives relying on luck and noise and sentiment. But what stood before them wasn't fragile. It was endurance in the shape of flesh. It was defiance carved into bone. The announcer hesitated. No formal end call. No closing horn. The crowd didn't demand it. The message had already landed. Korgith lay motionless. He was alive, but the man who had entered the ring was gone. In his place was something quieter, smaller, He wasn't a warrior anymore, just a reminder. A reminder that even monsters fall. The human turned without waiting for instruction. No guard stepped forward to stop him. They watched him walk, limping and bloodied, toward the exit he wasn't supposed to survive long enough to see. Later, whispers spread. Some claimed the match was rigged. Others insisted the human had enhancements. But the ones who had watched closely knew better. They saw the rawness, the precision, the refusal to die. And beneath it all, a deeper truth. The strength of humans wasn't in muscle or speed. It was in the refusal to quit. Stories rippled across the systems. Not about Korgoth, not anymore. About the human who didn't kneel. About the one who took every blow and returned only what was earned. About the soldier with no name, who fought without fanfare and left without a word. Commanders reviewed the footage. Analysts paused it frame by frame, trying to understand how a dying man dismantled a galactic champion. They looked for patterns, strategies, weaknesses. They missed the point. It wasn't about technique. It was about will. Back on Earth, no one knew yet. The war was still burning. Battles still raged. But the spark had been lit in the heart of the Empire. Fear crept into the calculus of those who once saw humans as manageable problems. Because now they'd seen one up close. Not in a warship, not in orbit, but alone. Cornered, wounded, and still winning. The Empire began to speak of restraint. Some military leaders suggested ending the arena program. Others whispered about potential retaliation. If one human could do that much damage without weapons, what could 10 do? 100? A legion? The fear was new, and it grew fast. The human was never seen in the arena again. No records, no sightings. Some believed he died from his wounds. Others said he was freed in secret, sent back as a message. A few believed he stayed in the Empire's shadows, waiting, watching. But his absence didn't erase what he left behind. Korgoth never fought again. He was offered rematches, redemption matches, ceremonial bouts. He refused them all. When asked why, he only said one thing. I saw what they are, not what they had, not what they claimed. What they are. Humans weren't conquerors. They weren't saviors. They were survivors. And when cornered, when left with nothing, they didn't fall apart. They became something else. The arena had hosted thousands of matches. But that one, just one, redefined stakes. Because it reminded everyone watching that underestimating humanity wasn't just dangerous. It was suicidal.